Hello, Professor Srivastava.
Good afternoon, Professor Srivastava.
So good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but a little bit, you need to increase the sound is a bit weak. Yeah, Subhashish has joined now.
Hi, Shashi.
Hi, Subhashish.
And I could see Sudeshna there briefly, right? Hi, Sudeshna.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm sure all the panelists are your friends.
I should know most of them. Yeah. So how is the COVID in the campus, Shashi? Here is bad. COVID
In Ashoka is
situation?
fine. Ashoka's situation is okay because most of the students also have gone home. Those who could travel. The number has come down drastically.
Okay.
So we can keep them well separated now.
Yeah.
It was worrisome about 10 days ago. Anjali, shall we start?
Yes, sir, we can start. I think we were waiting for 2 or 3 more panelists to join. They'll join probably. 2 more are left. So we can start now.
Okay, I see among the faculty, Anirban is here. Manu is here. Vikas is here. And shall we start, Anjali?
Sure, sir. I can start now.
Start.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are taking good care of yourselves amidst this ongoing pandemic. We welcome you all to the release of Ashoka University's Compendium on Artificial Intelligence, a collection of policy briefs on AI. The compendium is an outcome of an interactive webinar on AI, which we had organized last year in 2020 with leading experts from academia, industry, and the government. They were invited to discuss the deployment of AI across different verticals of the economy. This collection features some of these discussions in larger detail and is based on the insights of such experts who have contributed their thoughts and perspectives surrounding AI's use in emerging fields such as education, healthcare, supply chain management, AI for social good. Precisely, this publication underlines some of the pressing issues concerning AI's deployment in these areas and a set of policy recommendations for a better future. We are hopeful that this collection of policy briefs will help explore avenues to deploy AI in addressing societal problems. Without wasting any further time, we now move on to the introductions of our distinguished speakers and experts who have kindly agreed to join us today for this meeting. We have amongst us Professor Malabika Sarkar. She's the Vice-Chancellor at Ashoka University, who will be releasing the compendium. VC is a professor of English at Ashoka, and her field of academic interest is early modern literature and the history of science. She is also an elected life member of Clare Hall College, Cambridge, and invited fellow of the English Association of the UK. Professor L.S. Shashidhara is Dean of Research and Head of Science Policy Initiative at Ashoka. He is a professor of biology at Ashoka and specializes in genetics, molecular biology, and evolutionary biology. He is also currently the president of International Union of Biological Sciences. Professor Shubhashish Banerjee has joined us recently as the head of Computer Science Department at Ashoka. He has been with IIT Delhi as the professor of Computer Science and Engineering, and his research interests are into computer vision and machine learning. Coming now to our contributing co-authors who were also among the experts of the 2020 webinar, we start with Dr. Alpan Rawal. Dr. Alpan Rawal is the head of data science at the Wadhwani Institute of Artificial Intelligence. He is a theoretical physicist by training with a background research in black hole physics and cosmology, computational biology and chemistry, applied mathematics and machine learning. Dr. Avid Sarkar, another expert, is faculty at the Indian School of Business, working in area of data, emerging technology and policy. He also heads the development of India Data Portal there, and I was the former head of data analytics cells and officer on special duty at Niti Aayog. Dr. Sudeshna Sarkar is professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Kharagpur. She also currently heads the Center of Excellence in AI at the Institute. Her research interests are in natural language processing in AI and ML applications. And the last expert is Dr. Sameer K. Srivastava, is professor and dean of research at Indian Institute of Management in Lucknow. His major interest areas are operations strategy, public procurement, manufacturing excellence, supply chain innovations, reverse logistics, and sustainable supply chains. And finally, I am Anjali Taneja. I work as an associate director with the Science Policy Initiative, and my research interests are primarily into public policy, innovation, skills development, and capacity building. So with this, we welcome you all once again. I now request Professor Shashi to give his opening address.
Yeah, you can stop sharing. Yeah. So good afternoon to all of you, and again, wish you all, very safe life, and stay. Hopefully, you're all staying safe. Again, on behalf of Ashoka University, thanks to all the authors of this compendium, which was basically outcome of a brainstorming session that Professor Ravi Kothari, then head of the computer science, department in Ashoka, organized along with Anjali Taneja, a brainstorming session on what should be the India's roadmap for deployment of AI and ML for social good. It had two components. One is the what is the current status of AI and ML, which can be used for social good, and what should be the academic research in the area of AI and ML for further, make advances, and then bring some special features that is required for the in the Indian context, depending on the very complex social phenomena that we have, socio-economic phenomena, how to address these problems with the help of AI and ML. And the meeting went on very well, and we had fantastic speakers, and 4 of them are here. And the outcome of those brainstorming discussions is this policy brief, which Professor Malabika Sarkar is releasing shortly. Unfortunately, Professor Kothari couldn't join us because of variety of reasons, personal reasons, and he has conveyed his best wishes to the release of this one, and again his personal thanks to all the authors who made this possible. And finally, the AI and ML is one of the topics that the policy initiative took up, and there are many other initiatives it has started. One of them is on blockchain technology. Professor Mahavir Jawar of Ashoka University is an expert, along with few others in the country. We hope to bring out a white paper on blockchain technology. We also have initiatives on health in the health sector, particularly public health related matters, how data science can be used to improve our public health infrastructure, public health metrics, and so that the knowledge driven and data evidence based public policy framework is developed for the country. Unfortunately, the current pandemic, as you can see, how we have failed in many ways right from the beginning, is simply because we are not prepared to deal with such a pandemic because of the lack of infrastructure, which was based on the evidence, and also our ability to collect data and analyze in real time itself. There are certain limitations, and we need to improve on that one. So Ashoka Science Policy Cell would like to take up many such initiatives. In complementing to the Science Policy Cell, Ashoka also has a couple of other policy initiatives. One is in economic policy. We also have what called Center for Economic Data and Analysis. We have Trivedi's Center for Political Data. Then we have a few other centers which also are working in the policy arena. So overall, in addition to doing research, generating new data, collecting new data from public domains or through variety of different ways, and analyzing the data and use the data for framing the policy is what Ashoka's focus is going to be for the coming years. And with this short remark, and again, thank you all, and back to Anjali.
Thank you, Professor Shashi, for setting the tone of the meeting. May I now invite Professor Malabika Sarkar, Vice-Chancellor of Ashoka University, for her keynote address and release meeting. Thank you so much, Professor Sarkar.
Thank you, Anjali. Very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Ashoka University, it is my great privilege to be here for the release of the Compendium on Artificial Intelligence, a collection of policy briefs on AI. As you will see, I'm the only non-scientist on this panel. So the few words that I should speak to you comes from my perspective, without any informed knowledge of artificial intelligence. But so I would, I'm very excited about this compendium. I see this as the start of a great deal of activity and exciting work that will be forthcoming. But coming from my perspective, artificial intelligence evokes very strong feelings. It evokes very strong feelings depending on where you come from. So for a variety of people, like the panelists today, it is an incredibly exciting field. But for others who do not know this area, it evokes either skepticism or a great deal of fear. And this actually has a historical background to it. Because, if you come to think of it, humankind and machine, or the natural and the mechanical, have always been seen as opposed. And the mechanical has always been seen as a kind of threat. I can't give you a better example of this than the famous painting by J.M.W. Turner, Rain, Steam and Speed, the Great Western Railway. A painting that was done towards the end of the Industrial Revolution in the 1840s, a painting that shows you a black train hurtling forward, but enveloped with the iridescence of colors, rainbow colors all around. So nature surrounding this locomotive as it goes forward. So the big question that all Turner scholars have asked, what does the painting present? Is it telling us about progress? Is it telling us about the threat of mechanization? Well, yes, the Industrial Revolution brought us a lot of tools in the way of mechanical aids, but is Turner trying to say that that is actually destroying the world? So, this kind of mixed feeling is very common in centuries of dealing with what is the natural and what is the mechanical or the artificial. If we go a step further from this to that term, artificial intelligence, that is to many people even more frightening. Artificial intelligence is like an oxymoron. Two words that cannot simply belong together, but are together, and actually very meaningfully together. But that again, creates its own huge and deep anxiety. How can intelligence, which all of us grew up believing to be natural, some people are more intelligent than others, it's something very natural, how can intelligence be artificial? But more worrying is the next question. Is the time at hand when machines will be more intelligent than humans? And of course, all of you scientists on the panel will immediately, of course, understand that a machine that is freed from the biological constraints of memory, of limited memory. Human beings have limited memory. A machine need not have limited memory. So surely a time is at hand when machines' intelligence will overtake the intelligence of human beings without any doubt at all. And as I was thinking about the release of this compendium, I went back to something I'd read about earlier. And this was to do with a center that's there in the University of Cambridge. Cambridge University's famous Levium Center for the Future of Intelligence. And inaugurating that center at Cambridge, Stephen Hawking had said, and I'm quoting him, AI is likely to be the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity. So there's huge value in getting it right. In other words, if we are not to create a Frankenstein's monster, we have got to get it right. Responsibility, ethics, safety, many of these are as important as the excitement of applications and innovation. All of this needs to come together, as of course all of you understand much better than I do, in keeping us alert to both the possibilities and the risks of artificial intelligence. So I grew up in a household where at different unlikely places at home, there were models of the human brain, the inside of the human brain. This is because my father was a pioneering doctor. He was India's first neurologist. He was very excited. He had been sent to New York to learn this new field of medicine, which he brought to India. He was absolutely, enthralled with it. And I grew up hearing from him stories about all that the human brain can do. And I learned not to fear, this model of the human brain perched on top of a not so tall bookcase, for example, but would look at it, with huge excitement because of the stories that I heard from him about the possibilities of the human brain. And coming to this, release of the compendium today, I was thinking how far we've come. It's no longer the excitement of that model of the brain that I used to see as a child, but the excitement of intelligence outside of the human brain in a machine that we are thinking of now. How the world has moved on, which is, of course, progress, and it's very, very exciting. So I am sure that this compendium that is being released today is the start of many activities that will happen, anchored at Ashoka University, that we'll see many developments in a variety of areas around artificial intelligence. I hope to see many more such exciting events. Whatever little I understand, I would love to come and hear discussions on this subject. I thank the organizers for inviting me, and I think it's a very auspicious moment to be launching the compendium. Congratulations to those who contributed to the workshop, who put together the compendium. It's a great achievement, and many thanks for inviting me for this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your kind words. Should we start the release? Should I share the screen? Okay. Just a second. So we are now officially releasing the compendium. It will be available in the chat box immediately right after this for people to download for the attendees and the panelists, both of them, both sides. So this is I can actually show you the executive summary. Great. This would be available in the chat box shortly. We now invite, thank you, ma'am, again. Thank you so much for joining us at such a brief notice, and thank you for your kind words. We now invite Professor Subhashish Banerjee. He has recently joined Ashoka Universities, and he would be speaking a bit about AI at Ashoka. Sir, request you to share your kind words. Thank you.
Thanks, Ajay. I have not yet joined Ashoka. I will join very soon. I'm still at IIT Delhi. But looking forward, absolutely looking forward to joining Ashoka, to work on AI, and to work with all the panelists who have contributed to the compendium. So the compendium, I read through it today morning, and it looks like an extremely timely intervention. Right? It sets a stage for what we plan to do, identifies all the major issues, more or less, except some of those that Malabika just mentioned. I think those are missed out, and those are crucial issues. And it appears that there's considerable thought that has gone into it. So I congratulate Ravi, and I congratulate all the panel members to have contributed to it significantly. More than intelligence, I would like to concentrate on data, as Shashi alluded. And India has seen a data revolution. Started perhaps with Aadhaar, and the Prime Minister has announced a digital health record for anybody. And I wish it was there, because the medical data, as Shashi just mentioned, has been pathetic. The release from ICMR and the kind of epidemiology study that has been possible has been on the low side to understand the pandemic, and it will help. We have been doing electronic elections for the longest time, since 2004, and the amount of digital political data that India has, and indeed Ashoka has the Trivedi School of Trivedi Center for Political Data. That's unique of its kind in India, right? So Ashoka has also, I believe, talking to various faculty members, have used data in psychology, have used data in archaeology, and these are incredible possibilities. And India probably provides an opportunity that no other country provides, because no other country has gone to digitization in public life the way India has gone. Maybe a little recklessly, sometimes perhaps in a little foolhardy way, but it is there. And it provides a tremendous opportunity to researchers to give it shape and direction, right? And in all possible ways. We have probably one of the best census in the world, led by Prashanta Mahalnavis. I think no other country can match a census at this scale. But unfortunately, it's once in 10 years. It's extremely expensive. And our National Family Health Survey data is also once in 5 years. The last one got delayed, and the NFHS 5 has just got released. There are many problems that are not understood. We have childhood stunting close to 50% in the northern Indian states. It does not make sense to talk about a GDP growth if 50% of the population cannot participate in the labor economy. Right? It's a wrong start straight away. And the reasons for stunting are largely unknown. And whether it is possible to figure out why stunting is happening in India from NFHS data, perhaps not. So we need to do a lot of data analysis, data science, and I think that Ashoka is in a unique position to do that. So this compendium talks about AI for social good, talks about econometrics. I think that Ashoka has a very strong program of understanding GST data for econometrics and so on and so forth. So in sociology, in political science, psychology, I think Ashoka has played a leading role in epidemiology. For a new university, I think that the most sensible epidemiology has probably come from Gautam Menon and his group, and Shashi has contributed. Shahid Jamil has made some very strong interventions. So I'm sure that computer science will find lots of opportunity to work with these people in the coming years. And there are opportunities in medical imaging. I work on medical imaging personally, diagnostics, which are all mentioned in the compendium. What is missing is the intelligence part, right? And I think that most historians of science and philosophers of science have said that would believe that we have not even made any progress towards understanding intelligence. And AI doesn't even address that problem at all. It is, it processes data, it's an estimation theory, but still there are major epistemological barriers in understanding how the mind works. But that's something that gives an opportunity to computer science to work with philosophers, cognitive scientists, and I'm sure that at Ashoka we will find an opportunity to pursue those areas. Ethics finds a mention in the compendium when Malabika mentioned it. I think it's a tremendous issue, and there are authors, sociologists like Virginia Eubanks. She thinks that AI can only serve to accentuate inequality. That's the only purpose it can serve, right? There's this famous book by Virginia Eubanks. There are similar books by Zuboff and Kathy O'Neill, who are sociologists both, and they seem to think that AI is a dangerous tool. It can only increase social inequality, right? Has delivered nothing good. Maybe that's an extreme position, but that's a position that we must be aware of and take on headlong, right? Address headlong. So the issues of ethics, if there is any possibility of discrimination using data, violation of Article 15 of the Constitution, just doing unreliable AI as the supermodel of some computer scientist in India of the DST has just rolled out, So those are the kind of things that needs to be avoided. It's very easy to do bad AI. So, and I think that Ashoka is uniquely positioned to answer these questions with a strong with computer science situated in the middle of social sciences and a liberal arts school, is probably best positioned to address and ask some of these questions. So I'm looking forward to join that activity. And I'll count on all the panelists to help us, guide us as we move along. So I'll stop here and I'll leave it to the panelists to take on from here.
Anjali, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, sir, and we look forward to welcoming you at Ashoka soon. We now come to the experts session, where the 4 experts are present with us, and thank you for joining us. So we request Dr. Alpan Rawal, who is the head of data science at Wadhwani Institute for AI, to speak, few minutes, if you can share your insights on AI for social good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Taneja, for the invitation, and Professor Sarkar for the very interesting and refreshing take on AI, which I probably wouldn't have heard elsewhere. So that was very refreshing. Just a few words on AI for social good and what we at Wadhwani AI mean by AI for social good. As we all know, AI itself, we've heard a lot about it. It's a transformative technology, and it's enabled many things. On the one hand, it's enabled machines to do tasks that humans can do better. So in other words, it's enabled automation at scale for simple things like driving, visually recognizing objects, and so on. But it's also enabled some superhuman tasks where machines can recognize patterns that sometimes humans cannot, right? So you have the whole range of tasks that AI enables. And so, given this tremendous potential, the natural question is, how can AI improve the human condition rather than just used as a tool by, say, technology companies to improve their bottom line, right? So you have this fantastic, extremely powerful tool, and how can you use it to improve daily life for most people, right? Not just for the elite. So some of this has already happened in healthcare and agriculture. For example, there's new diagnostic tools for diseases that use AI. And it's quite common also nowadays to use AI in drug discovery, in candidate selection for drugs, for example. In agriculture, processing of drone images and drone videos of crops to estimate yield, to identify plant disease and so on. This has been enabled through AI. And all of this has been developed, but not at scale. It's been developed, deployed in very specialized, isolated settings, right? And on the other hand, if you look at what's happening in the West in terms of how AI for social good is perceived in the West, it's mainly around issues like fairness and bias mitigation and so on, which are very important issues, but they don't directly transform livelihoods, right? And so you have this very, very transformative technology, which is being used, if you look at it in a very broad way, it's actually being used very narrowly, right? So there's still this gap between the AI applications that exist today and technology that will directly be used by and benefit the underserved masses across the developing world. Right? This gap still exists today, right? AI is not a ubiquitous technology among the poor across the developing world, unlike the internet, for example, right? So if you look at the internet transformed itself from a technology that was used primarily by academicians and high-tech companies to a technology that today is being used by the common man. It's completely democratized, right? So this is the mission really at Wadhwani AI. This is what we seek to address, and this is what we mean by AI for social good, which is democratizing AI to the extent that it can be used to transform lives and livelihoods for the poor, right? So it's quite different from the traditional use of AI for social good in the West. It's also quite different from sort of the isolated and specialized use cases that have been developed in healthcare and agriculture. So this is the direction in which we seek to go. And I'm very glad that this compendium of policy briefs includes a chapter on AI for social good in the Indian context. Thank you.
Anjali.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Rawal. That was pretty insightful. When we talk about democratization of AI, that's very important, especially in the Indian context. And your contributions for AI for social good in the chapter has been pretty insightful. Thank you so much. We now go to Dr. Avik Sarkar. And Dr. Sarkar is the visiting professor at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. And he was also former head of data analytics cell at Niti Aayog, Government of India. Dr. Sarkar, over to you.
Thanks, Anjali. So I am based in the Mohali campus. Actually, ISB has a campus in Mohali, which is closer to you. So I am actually based there. But I was really surprised when Alpan told the compliments to Professor Sarkar, and then I realized there are two other stalwarts whom I really admire, Malabika ma'am and Shudarshana ma'am. They are there, and I just
Sorry, I should have been clearer.
No, I got an ego boost for some time, which was really good for me. So I can just admire these two ladies and hope that I can reach their level maybe in 20 years or sometime. But really nice. So thanks Anjali. This was a really nice journey that we had with Ashoka from the time the webinar took place and then formulation of the policy briefs. So the topic that I have worked on and that is also my life's personal experience. So I come from a pure tech world where I spent about 15-16 years of my life doing data science, AI, data analytics, whatever you call them, those sort of work for industry and for government across the world. The only thing that we would be concerned with a lot of the data science people would correlate with that is that how do you develop algorithm that gives higher accuracy? That was the only agenda of the day that I would have. And I have spent many years of my life doing that. Then I enter into the social arena in Niti Aayog, and I saw that beyond accuracy, there is a world of things that are there. That has to be taken into consideration, like whether the thing is fair, whether you have taken, whether the data that you have collected, as Professor Banerjee mentioned, is representative of your population, whether all the inequalities that exist in your society are equally considered or not. And then in certain cases, we treat AI as a black box where we can give a prediction, but we cannot explain the prediction. So it's like a very strange thing. So if you go into a court of law with the AI machine, if something goes wrong, we really don't know. The person who is operating it cannot give an explanation about why it happened. So there is a range of such issues which is there. And sadly, what I found out was that very little on this front was happening in India. And it's also very tough to work given the way the university structures in India are, where we have the social sciences institute separate, the legal institute separate, and the technical institute separate. The management, medical are also again separately based. So at least for this ethical AI or the societal AI, I feel the social scientists have to come together with the technologists and the legal experts. So these three teams of people have to come together to build the policies of this, if you have to take full advantage of this. So again, as I told, I'm a very new into academia, so I even get a bit worried when someone tells me professor, because I'm only like 2 years in academia. Before that, I was happily living in corporate. So I'm just trying to explore some of these things on how ethical aspects are there. The three areas that I'm looking into are areas of interest for India: healthcare, agriculture, and smart cities. Smart cities include things like CCTV cameras, facial detection, and things of those nature. So I'm just scratching the surface of these things, and I've written some policy recommendation on the initial observations. Hope people like it, but I think there's a lot more work to be done. And as Professor Banerjee rightly mentioned, I have a long history of working with him. I think universities like Ashoka are ideally placed to take up this advantage. And also you have a very good law institute just beside you, OP Jindal. So if you can collaborate, I think you can do a lot of magic, which I think a lot of other people are not in that position to do. So all the best to Ashoka and look forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. So Dr. Sarkar's contribution in the book is actually on ethics in healthcare, AI ethics in healthcare. And as you rightly said, AI is a black box where we can actually give instructions, but can't expect what output we are getting. This is completely bang on point. We now go to Professor Sudeshna Sarkar. She is an expert in AI in education, and she has also contributed in the paper on this education and research bit. She is a professor at Department of Computer Science and Engineering and head of the Center of Excellence in AI at IIT Kharagpur. Professor Sarkar, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Anjali. I'm very happy to be here and to have listened to the talks of many eminent people. And I have enjoyed the talks of Professor Malabika Sarkar, Professor Banerjee, Dr. Obhik Sarkar, and Dr. Alpan Rawal. So I think AI, as we all know, it is an extremely powerful tool. And it is up to us how we choose to wield the weapon. So while there are concerns that Professor Malabika Sarkar has raised about the whether AI can spell disaster, there is also the possibility of using AI for positive things, just like Vadvani AI is focusing on. So among different domains, education, I think, is one of the most important domains. That is the foundation of the social and intellectual capital of not just a nation, but for the entire planet. So that our technology, our science can improve the planet, it is extremely important to have access to very good, high quality education, interdisciplinary education, which is the need to solve important societal and important issues, challenge issues for the planet, as well as values, human values, which is, for this, it's important that there's liberal education, which has to be combined with scientific and technical education. Today in India, in most of the universities, such as the tech universities where I work, the technical education is almost completely technical and scientific. It has very little, very little of liberal and exposure to liberal and social sciences, ethics, etc. It is extremely important to build the generation which has a combination of these values, so that together we can really solve the problems in the planet and really, boost humanity. So this is just the context, but the short thing is that I think education is extremely important. And if you look at a country like India, which has such a huge population, it is very difficult to give access to high quality education to every citizen in the manner which they require. And I think AI, many people think that AI can play an extremely crucial role. So, for example, technology can solve the problem of scale. So, so good quality educational material, it's not easy to have access to such a large number of educators who have the required expertise to develop course materials. But so we have had different experiments and different large-scale experiments like NPTEL and others, which are extremely popular where quality courses are available. But we have to go much beyond. We have to use technology to build delivery platforms so that high-quality education can be delivered along with the teachers to different populations and different levels, in a way which is acceptable and which actually works. And a great deal of effort must be put in there. Also, when you talk about education, people are different. So you have to create personalized pathways for education. And in order to do that, again, AI can help. And as Professor Banerjee mentioned, data is key to be able to find out what is the best way to do this. And India has the unique advantage of we have so many people, and if we can build proper platforms, if we can collect data, analyze it, it will definitely give us a way to be able to deliver the proper type of educational materials with the proper type of help of teachers on the ground to different people, which can actually help them. So there are immense potentials of AI in delivering education and also in the onerous job of assessing a person and helping that person to develop. As teachers, we know how difficult it is to assess students. And this is one job where if AI does this job, it's much easier for teachers to scale up their delivery to a larger audience. So it is extremely important to take it as a very challenging problem. So for example, the National Education Policy, the Niti Aayog AI strategy paper, they all mention education as one of the most important domains where AI should be utilized in India. Unfortunately, I see very few people actually work on using AI in education. But so there is an immense scope, there is an immense social benefit, immense, other types of benefits to reap from that. So it is very important that there is a good effort to actually work on using AI in education. So with this few words, I'll stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sarkar, even so articulate in emphasizing the fact that AI is the most powerful tool in improvising education in India to bridge education and research gaps. So I thank you for that, and your contributions are really, really immensely valued. Lastly, we go to Professor Sameer K. Srivastava. He is Professor and Dean of Research at Indian Institute of Management in Lucknow. And his contribution has largely been in AI in supply chain management, which is again a very, very important topic. So Professor Srivastava, over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And as has been mentioned time and again, being the last speaker has its own advantages and disadvantages. It was really nice to hear from all of you people about different perspectives. I am somewhat in between the pure arts and the pure science. I come with a technical background, with an engineering degree, worked in corporate just like a week, but for a lesser number of years, but still about a decade before I came to academics. And with an engineering degree, now I'm in management. So I'm basically into supply chain, and for supply chain innovations, AI, blockchain, IoT, these are some of the tools where me and some of my PhD students have been working of late. Going to what Professor Malabika said, there are opportunities and there are risks, of course, but from the limited perspective of supply chain, there are more opportunities than risks in general. Of course, when you talk of ethical dilemma, or you talk of manpower losing jobs, or you talk of the negative effects of automation or technology taking over, there are caveats, but generally there is a lot of potential and possibilities. But at the same time, if I stretch it beyond that to sustainable supply chains, which is my area of research since I came into academics about 2 decades back, then you need to look from perspective of environment, society, all those perspective, and then it becomes a more sort of broader perspective. So a lot of data, as everyone pointed out, is being generated. What I could know, I don't know where it's an old 2018, 2019 data at about 3 quintillion bytes of data are being generated, all forms, text, visual, whatever, interactive, functional data, analytic data. So there are data scientists like Avik already on the board. I am somewhere a hybrid type. I've also been fascinated by history of science and technology, although I didn't get into that depth as Professor Sarkar may have got. But during my BTech days, I had that my elective, and I was one of the few people to go for that elective, but found it really fascinating. So right from those days, about 30 years back, this has been intriguing me. So there are a lot of, what do I say, there are a lot of, if we talk from a narrow supply chain perspective, there are a lot of scope and opportunities to promote digital transformation of production and supply chain processes. There could be a lot of scope for innovation if you broaden the scope. Then for the competitiveness of the businesses, I'm talking from a business perspective right now. And then if you stretch it further for ensuring occupational, social and environmental protection or guarantees or whatever. And it's not the technology, this AI alone, but it could be used in a sort of configuration where you also use smart contracts or blockchain or a lot of devices, including IoT. So there are a lot of possibilities. People talked of different sectors. Now I'm diversing a little bit. One of the sectors we missed out was defense. Defense has immense possibilities of using AI. I had interaction with few people, although it's at a very superficial level. Health is one where it's very sort of obvious. Agriculture is one where it seems very obvious. But even in defense, supply chain seems very obvious. And if you talk of health supply chain right now, we are facing problems, as Professor Shashidhar pointed out, mainly because of lack of data or lack of reliable data or authentic data or enough data. Even now, despite we have too much of data, it may not be authentic or reliable, or it may not be captured properly, or it may not be real time, or there may be some important missing data. This is what happens or is happening across the world, and particularly so in India. We have been on path to digitalization, as everyone mentioned, but then it has been in sort of topsy-turvy type of drive, individual-led or some mantra-led or whatever. But you need to be on a more solid platform to begin with, actually, rather than getting into sort of emotional hype or getting merely fascinated. So we need to start more on a scientific platter, and then multidisciplinary is what is required, and this is where we are all working in silos, most of us. The most we can do is appreciate others' work, but beyond that, probably we are unable to gel and mix together. And the situation is better normally in developed countries. And this is where our NEP policy somehow talks about all those sort of working together and synergies and so on. I hope that works out. One of the things, again, what Professor Sarkar initially mentioned, Professor Malabika Sarkar, there are too many Sarkars, three of them here. So she talked about, again, I missed out the point in talking about these things, but she talked about, maybe I'll come to that later. We still have a little bit of time. So another thing you talked, Professor Sudeshna, about assessing students. This is where I'll focus mainly on a lot of dilemmas, what Professor Malabika Sarkar was talking about, even assessing students. Right now, in IITs, IIMs, lot of institutes, almost invariably in the developed world, you have TAs. But I personally still don't trust TAs. The reason being, when the students answer, you also read between the lines. And this is where AI is yet to develop. I don't think, or it may even develop to that stage where you can interpret, you can read between the line, and then you can relate to what I taught and how much has the student assimilated and what is coming back. So that is where I may be an old timer, although I'm not as aged, but I am a strong opponent of TAs evaluating answer sheets, especially the descriptive ones. If they are numerical or objective, fine, that AI can also do. So TAs are primarily like primitive AI, what I use right now. So in education also, assessing, again, one of the philosophical question comes nowadays. Of course, we are faced with the problem of actual examinations, and online is a farce because students are generally more tech savvy and they are able to cheat and manage. At least that has been the experience most of us have been witnessing. But because of the lack of anything better, we still went for exams, and perhaps they serve the purpose, although they could be improved. So these are some of the dilemmas. even in context of, say, autonomous supply chain, coming back to my own topic, even if you integrate AI, IoT, blockchain, and maybe a few other emergent technologies, still it may not be a total autonomous supply chain, because as Dr. Avik Sarkar pointed out, you also need to have an explanation. It's not only the outcome of a black box. Finally, it's going to serve society. Society members, stakeholders need to understand why this decision is being taken, why this policy is being implemented. And this is the biggest challenge, I believe. I think I'll stop here. I have a lot to say, but then a lot of you are probably more aware of those things than what I am. And I stop here.
Okay, thank you, Professor Srivastava. It was a very insightful talk, though this is a never-ending process of AI in supply chain management, a lot of dimensions. So in the book also, you have discussed a lot about it, and I'm sure the readers would love that. They would love to read more about it. So with this, we actually come to an end of this session. And may I request Professor Shashi to give his closing remarks? Maybe a thanking note to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anjali. Thanks to all of you. Professor Malabika Sarkar, Sudeshna, Avik, Samir, and finally our own Subhashish, for wonderfully highlighting the importance of AI and in our day-to-day life. So just today, the current pandemic itself is an example how AI could help at every level. We are going through a major supply chain pipeline which has broken down. In fact, I'm also part of a huge, a consortium of all the companies which are making reagents for RT-PCR kits and also manufacturing kits, and just bringing 100 companies, located across the country, and bring them onto one supply chain platform. It requires, more than human intelligence for sure, collecting the data and then connecting each one of them, because they had to supply large number of kits in real time, right, at fastest time possible. So that's a challenge. And there are so many, from oxygen to everywhere, we have a major problem. And it has also affected our day-to-day supply of, essential other goods. And of course, education is completely in a disarray, particularly school education. And if every child has to go online education, and if it is again done in a language which they are very not familiar with, I think, Sudeshna Sarkar's, initiative and the work that she explained, if we had, deployed already such technology 2 years ago, perhaps, our current education would not have got affected so much the way it's affecting now. We don't know, maybe because of the way second wave is, raging, another year, maybe school education will get affected, which completely unexpected. Just about 2-3 months ago, we were all thinking that August, everything will be normal. And Avik Sarkar and Alpan Rawal, both of them brought out, importance aspect of when you bring out AI for democratization, for social good, for livelihood. There are so many ethical issues come because of, already we have so much of inequality, socioeconomic inequality, how to ensure that there is equity when you deploy any scheme, and how AI can be used at individual level, which is easier because every individual gains. But when you start putting them across communities, across groups, across populations, then we need to ensure equity. And that's another challenge for India. Anyway, thank you very much for all of you. I think there's going to be a continuous dialogue. We would like to organize, one more such brainstorming session this year, and almost once a year on AI and ML. And we'll continue to organize other brainstorming sessions and blockchain technology, other data science related methods, also on particularly very different sectors, but health and socioeconomic equity and other topics, and education for sure. And both because Ashoka is already in an education sector, and many of our faculty are also interested in both school and higher education. So with this, and I should have, thank, special thanks to Anjali on behalf of all of you, on behalf of every reader who is going to read this compendium. She's put enormous amount of, effort. She started off, when she joined Ashoka Science Policy Initiative, she had worked in the education sector, particularly in the school education sector and in capacity building in teachers' education and so forth. And first assignment for her was blockchain technology. The second was artificial intelligence, machine learning. I think she is sort of, has put in a lot of effort and read a lot about all of this technology herself. And so thanks, Anjali, and thank you all. And, stay safe, and we'll meet again very soon. We need all your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your closing remarks. And thank you, esteemed panelists, for joining us today. Thank you so much for all your insights and wonderful words. Just before we switch off, can we all have the video switched on so that we can have one group picture together?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We also share the picture with us.
Yes.
But was missing. Now he's also there. I did take a screenshot, but he was missing. Yeah.
Yes, true.
Okay.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, delegates, for joining us. And goodbye. Have a safe, take care, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.